This is 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions. Brought to you by RCR Wireless News and Telecom Careers. Connect at carriecharles.com. And now, here's Carrie Charles.
So I'm thrilled to have with me today Dr. Derek Peterson. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Boingo Wireless. He's responsible for the company's technical vision and strategy. Derek, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, Carrie, thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here on this 5G Talent Talk podcast with you.
Tell us more about Boingo Wireless and the company's role in the 5G future.
Hey, Carrie, it's exciting to be at Boingo in these times, talking about 5G and the future of being able to address everybody's needs to be connected, especially in the times that we're dealing with today. You know, one of the key things about 5G is that a lot of the use cases for 5G require more dense connections, more antennas closer, and it requires a lot of indoor use cases that businesses and individuals are trying to accomplish. And so Boingo has been working in venues, in large venues for a long time, indoors primarily, designing, building, and monetizing wireless networks at those venues for many years. And that includes airports, which a lot of people know us for our Wi-Fi in the airports. But what a lot of people don't realize is in those same locations where we're doing Wi-Fi and trying to find a right monetization strategy for Wi-Fi in those, we're also doing cellular connections for all of the major carriers, and we're running and building and managing those networks for them. And then, of course, we're in other locations like stadiums and military locations and apartments. All these locations, the key thing is you need to solve the connectivity challenges that people are having. And Boingo is technology agnostic. We focused on neutral host connectivity so that way everybody gets connected, and taking advantage of all the different spectrum that you might have, whether that's licensed spectrum from a carrier, unlicensed spectrum like Wi-Fi, or some of the new flavors coming out like CBRS, where you're using shared spectrum. And we really just bring all that domain expertise that we have to the 5G future and bring it to all of our partners, whether it's the venues, the consumers, or the carriers.
So, Derek, many years ago, you were way ahead of your time, by the way. You were talking about this concept of network convergence. Can you talk more about this convergence and what it means for 5G?
Yeah, you know, when you're focused on use cases, one of the things that you realize really fast is that there's more to connect than just your mobile phones that we're all used to. In an Internet of Things world, there's a lot of things. And, you know, we're going to talk about it later in the podcast, but, you know, the key thing is we don't just want the things to connect. We want to be able to have a converged experience with those things that are connecting. And so a few years ago, it was probably 4 years ago, I came out with this Convergence Manifesto calling on the industry to stop competing on technology, to really just start collaborating so that we can use licensed, unlicensed, and shared license together, get these things connected, and do a leap ahead for the next decade of innovation. And we really are starting to see that happen. And it's a deep commitment of that I have and always have had of trying to find convergence at every level, whether it's the technology level or in some of the other levels that you need to have that convergence to be successful.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of those other levels. Would you say that there's also convergence on the team level? And what about the users of 5G?
Definitely. You know, convergence is really kind of a mindset. It's about recognizing that it's about sharing and collaborating to bring the best of both worlds. And when you start doing that, you create a platform that allows carriers to have greater densification without all the build costs that they would have if they were doing networks by themselves. So you're reducing costs by sharing resources, and you're driving up opportunities by being able to have these networks together. And what's really important about this, as you start thinking about teams and business models, is that we all want these interfaces to happen. And a good example I like to use is the convergence of different systems. We now have on our phones all of these different apps, and we end up having to install app upon app upon app to try to get all the different things to work together. A good example I've used in the past is I'm getting off an airplane and I want to get in an Uber, and the Uber driver has no idea how long it's going to take me to walk from the gate that I landed at to the street to get picked up. But if we could end up collaborating and working together, we can feed that data because we know how long it takes the average person, and we can calculate that because we're watching that person as they connect when they get out of the plane and walking to that curb, and the average time. We can feed that data to the Uber driver so the Uber driver meets you at the right time. So it's cases like this that bring together a real strong business model for a need for convergence.
You know, Derek, you said that working together and together, it seems like that's the mantra for today's world.
It definitely is. You know, when I look at, the way we've set up our teams at Boingo, we really believe that convergence is a part of the way we work in our organization as well. We've established this thing called SPIRIT, which stands for supportive people who are impassioned, responsive, innovative, and transparent. And one of the key things I always tell my team is it's important for us to support one another and be transparent with one another so that we can be successful. And those are the cornerstones of SPIRIT. And really, those are the cornerstones of any time you end up working together and you're trying to accomplish something together, is that you have to find out how you can support one another and leverage feeling and trusting one another so that you can be transparent and you can accomplish great things.
That's very powerful. Anything else about your culture? I mean, I've heard great things about Boingo's. It has a unique culture that has really enabled it to stay on the cutting edge for almost 20 years.
Yeah, I think that one of the key things when you're dealing with any organizational structure is that you're going to end up having challenges. You're going to end up having failures. And the way you meet those challenges and failures is really key to the way an organization works. And so one of the things that I learned when I was in the military was that when you end up having an action, so whether that's action's a new project or in the military, is a new campaign or a new battle, you end up taking time out to review what went well, what didn't go well, and what was okay. I always call it an after action review. And we actually have started to apply that across the whole organization, where we look at things and we say, what was good, what was bad, and what was ugly. And that's one of the things that we continue to focus on as an organization, is having an impassioned workforce that's supportive and transparent with one another, and then being able to have these after action reviews to learn from.
With baby boomers retiring and, there's millennials are really set to make up the majority of the workforce soon. And you're an amazing leader, by the way. I've heard just incredible things about you, Derek, and especially what you just said about your military experience. Thank you so much for your service. And
thank you for yours.
Yes, I also was a Marine as well. But how is Boingo developing the leaders of the future? And, anything, the women as leaders, I know that's a real issue right now in the telecom and tech industries, is, developing female leaders and focusing on diversity. And I'm sure that Boingo is very passionate about developing and recruiting and retaining veterans as well. So how are you developing these leaders?
I think that's a great question. And I've been fortunate enough to have, great leaders lead me in my past. with very diverse backgrounds and both culturally and in every other way that you can imagine. And I think that one of the key things is we need to be aware that there is differences, and we need to inspire and educate and equip the diverse workforce of the future through a lot of different programs so that we can break new ground. One of the things that we do at Boingo is I participate in several initiatives to try to bring STEM more to these diverse crowds, whether it's groups ethnically that haven't had STEM, science, technology, and math as a key, and engineering is a key thing in their lives because they don't have it in the background, or really just also with different with women and with men working together. I think we do this thing called Girls Who Code, which I participate in, as well as many other initiatives that we have at our company to try to push this forward. I think what I've learned most from it personally of going through this, and I have a lot of kids and some grandkids as well, is that we really need to push forward people of different backgrounds, because it ends up letting us recognize and see things that we can't see before. But in addition, it lets those that are younger, so when we're talking these millennials and these younger generations, they need to see people who are like them in these positions of power and seeing that they're enjoying it. A lot of people end up taking jobs where they've seen their fathers in those jobs or their mothers in those jobs, and they end up taking those jobs because that's what they know. And so it's really becomes important for us to support initiatives like Pledge LA, which is an initiative from the Mayor Garcetti here in Los Angeles, where we're working to bring more inclusive and diverse approaches to recruitment and retention in technology.
Sounds like you have got it right. That's great to hear. My daughter is in college and she's in STEM. Very, very proud of her. So I agree with everything that you said, Girls Who Code, and really supporting STEM, to strengthen your workforce and also develop leaders. Derek, you are known to be a visionary and an influencer in the technology and telecom space. So I really was not surprised when I heard that you have a microchip embedded in your hand. So I want to hear the story behind this.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've always tried to push is that the internet or our networks should be a part of our daily lives. It shouldn't be something that we get lost in by going to our phones and burying ourselves as an escape. It really should enhance our physical life. So it's about, combining the physical and the digital into one great collaborative experience together. And so when I found out that you could end up taking a near field communication or an NFC, and I could end up starting to figure out how to make the internet be part of me, I said, all right, I'll give this a shot. And a lot of people know this. I embedded a chip in the palm of my hand, or right between the thumb and the pointer finger. There's a little pocket there. But what was cool about it is when I first did it, it was kind of one of those things I did with a few of my sons who are also forward thinkers. One of my sons is studying right now, finishing up his master's actually next week in biotechnology, and he's studying how to put chips in people's brains. Right, so that's a step farther than what I've done with my hand.
Goodness,
but the idea is that today, we have these connections to the internet, and a lot of times we're sitting at the kitchen table and we're saying, okay, put away your phones because we want you to talk to each other. Well, it would be a lot better if we ended up saying, hey, I want to ask a question, I want to have a conversation, but I want to be able to do that without losing the conversation I'm having in the physical world. to be able to get that digital answer that I'm looking for. And so that's, to me, is really the key that we're trying to accomplish. So when I put the chip in my hand, and it's been about 5 years now ago I did it, the start was, let's figure out what I can do with it. So I ended up using Apple Pay and Google Pay, and with it, I use it today for all my house stores, all the office stores at work. I don't have to carry around a key. And I also have used it for my car, so I don't have to have a key in my car. So it's really kind of freed me from the idea of key. And I think as we move forward, it's a very important part of the thing that I'm thinking of in the future is how do we end up combining the digital and the physical world with our identity? And so this is a physical way of doing it. And I think that there's also some physical and virtual things that you can do to combine them to really go further than I've done with just the chip in my hand.
Yes, and I've heard you say before the Internet of Me versus the Internet of Things, and I just love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things that I get to do sometimes is when I have these moments to think, is I start thinking about when we're talking about convergence and we're talking about collaboration and creating a network of services and use cases that people can reduce friction in their life. You know, when Internet of Things first came out, when I was studying back, on my PhD, I remember it came out and I really just did not like the term because it separated us. Again, when we created our networks, we called it the World Wide Web or the Internet, and we didn't make it be a part of us. So I coined this phrase called IoMe, or Internet of Me. And what the goal really is to make the Internet more personal. You know, combine the digital and physical world with your digital identity and create this frictionless and hyper-personalized experience of the network with what we're doing. So you can automatically turn on lights as you're going through an apartment or as you open up the front door. And again, that may be a chip today, but in the future, it could be something even more unobtrusive than, having to go implant something inside your body. Think of other things like ticketless going into an airport or stadium. All these different things that we're trying to create are really about trying to remove that friction and let the digital and the physical world get back together the way they're supposed to be.
So in those times where you're thinking, your focus time, and you're thinking about 5G, give us your predictions. What lies ahead for us with 5G?
I think we're going to see a lot of new improvements in the way that we use technology. If you think about just an airport and all the friction that goes through as you're rushing to try to get on and into an aircraft so you can go to your next flight, nobody really enjoys that experience. And there's things that we can do in airport operations to make it easier. We can do boarding via facial recognition. We could have robots that serve as a passenger concierge. With one of the things I read today as I was doing my morning reading was I saw that in Dubai, they're starting to take temperatures of people before they board aircraft. Now, you can imagine that's going to add yet even more friction. But there's technology out there today that can end up sensing heat without you actually having to put something in your ear, on your face. And I've actually, for Boingo, I've actually ordered some devices that sense your heat from a distance of up to 6 feet away. So we're going to use those as kind of a way to, as people come back into the office, to make sure that they're healthy and make sure people are comfortable. But those are the kind of things which we could do as we start adding these new frictions to our life by thinking of a technology way, a digital way to combine that physical frustration and that digital capability together to improve that experience. And that's what 5G is going to bring. It's going to allow us to transform the way we work, the way we think. And, with what's going on with, coronavirus right now, we're going to have to think of those things because people are changing some of their mindsets. And so taking advantage of technology and the power that 5G can bring with lower latency, faster speeds, and then the many different business models with convergence of wireless spectrum, whether it's licensed, unlicensed, or shared, is also going to end up giving us a way to do it in an economical way.
Dr. Derek, I just feel like I've had a peek into the future here. Super exciting stuff. And where can you be reached if our listeners want to reach you and learn more about what you're doing, more about Boingo?
Yeah, so please go ahead and check out boingo.com. We just did another refresh of the website here recently. So there's a lot of good information about what Boingo is up to there. And in addition to that, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Derek Peterson. I actually use DDA Peterson because my name's Derek Dennis Allen Peterson. So that's both my Twitter or LinkedIn, DDA Peterson, and you can get a hold of me.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Derek, for joining me today on 5G Talent Talk. This has just been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to this episode of 5G Talent Talk, brought to you by RCR Wireless News, Telecom Careers, and Broadstaff 5G Talent Solutions. As always, you can connect with me at carriecharles.com, and I will meet you on the next episode. Stay well.
You've been listening to 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions. Brought to you by RCR Wireless News and Telecom Careers. Connect with Carrie at carriecharles.com.